and it let out this blood-curdling, guttural scream.
On the side of the road, he sees a deer carcass and something eating on it, which he thought was a bear. And as the lights hit it, it stood up. And, like, this gives me chills talking about it. He said it stood up and it had the face of a man.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Bigfoots of America podcast show. I'm your host, Bryan Sawyer, coming at you, episode 42. We're going to jump right into this. A guy by the name of Greg Ogles. He is from Relic Films, and he has an outstanding feature film out there about the land between the lakes in Kentucky. I met Greg. He's on the NCI team on the Channel 12 TV network as well as me, and that's where I met him. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this guy. I just love the wealth of information that he has. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring Greg in. Hey, Greg.
Hello, Bryan.
Hey, man. Like I said in the prelude, so excited to finally get you on. I know you're extremely busy. You're a filmmaker like I am. You do all I'm a one-man show myself as of right now. Sometimes in this field, it's just easier to depend on yourself, and it's quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a producer, there's nothing more difficult than herding all the cats, so to speak. So when you have, getting everybody's schedule together, particularly if you have a large group and they're working for free, sometimes that's the most difficult thing that you can do, and then, there's the other aspects of being the one-man show of that's good about it, because you get to be the complete creator. You have all the artistic ability that you want, instead of signing it off to another, another editor that you have to farm out. So
That's right. That's right, brother. Well, let's go ahead and jump right in. I've been fascinated by all the information basically that you have in your brain. You've been doing this a long time. I've only been in it for 3 years now. There's some background there I always talk about, but some of the things that you have said on the NCI show and the Channel 12 TV network have really just kind of blown my mind in the sense that, okay, I really need to listen and learn from this guy. So with that said, let's go ahead and start from the beginning. How did this all start for you?
Oh, wow. From the very, very beginning, when I was a kid, I had a UFO encounter. It was a very traumatic UFO encounter. And I didn't speak about it for a very long time, not until the Tic Tac UFO footage came out from the government. And they was actually saying, hey, these things are real. But what happened to me when I was a kid, my 2 older brothers and 2 older cousins, we were on a road going down to our grandmother's house, and this big light shined down on us. And I remember trying to look up. Now, I was very, very young, very young. I remember trying to look up, and I couldn't see beyond, the light source, of course. It's just like having somebody shine a flashlight in your face, right? So, except it's much brighter. But what I did take away from that is that, while this beam was on us, it was kind of a blue-green looking beam. But when I pulled out my hands, it felt tangible, like you could feel it. I would liken it now to static electricity. It feel like static electricity. Um, and then the next thing that I remember is being on my grandmother's porch, and it was a covered porch. And what was going through my little brain at the time was, how is the light? How is this light coming through the roof? Of course, it was probably just, I don't know if it was actually coming through the roof or just reflecting off from the surroundings and then into the porch. But anyway, I never saw the craft. My oldest brother did. And it was like he said it was a giant triangle. And he said it was huge. And it was maybe 2 treetops high. So treetops here about 100 feet. So maybe 200 feet up. And he said it took up the whole sky and kind of moved for just a second and then blink, it was gone. So,
Wow.
Yeah. And I remember being rather traumatized by that. I mean, it was not comfortable at all. So anyway, that sort of got me. It was always in the back of my mind, and I was always interested in the paranormal after that. And in I don't know, in the late 70s, I was always a Star Trek fan, and anything Leonard Nimoy was in, I had to go watch it because he was Spock, and he did a good job, and I loved those shows. And I was always a Bionic Man fan, and my favorite episode of that was Bionic Bigfoot, and then, as I got a lot older, I started watching things like Monster Quest and Ancient Aliens, and Finding Bigfoot and all these other shows that was on TV. And like, wow, I would love to be able to do that. And then one day decided, hey, I'm going to get my butt off of the couch and actually go out and do something. So I joined a Facebook group that where I met Paul Halsey, the late Paul Halsey. Now he was essentially my mentor. And he showed me everything to kind of look for when it comes to Bigfoot. And my profession is I'm a traffic engineer. And what I used to do was investigate very complex crashes. So I use the exact same tools that like a police investigator would use when they go out and they're doing like a homicide investigation. You're putting pieces of a puzzle together to form a picture, to try and figure out what's going on, right? Well, I brought these same tools to Bigfooting, essentially. And I still use them today. All these little tools, I may not know or all these little pieces of the puzzle, I may not know what one piece of the puzzle means by itself. But when I start putting together all these other pieces that I've gathered over the years, it's revealed a picture to me that that was much different from what I first started. When I first started, I'll be the first to say that I thought Bigfoot was just a wood ape. And everything that I have experienced since then has taught me it's probably not just a wood ape. There's other things involved. So essentially, I got into it as a distraction, started using some of my tools that I used for investigating. Says, hey, while I'm investigating and documenting things, why don't I make a documentary, right? How hard can it be? Well, that's the words of somebody who is completely ignorant about making a documentary.
I love it.
That is those words. So I knew nothing about making a documentary, and I knew nothing about making a documentary. So I reached out to the University of Alabama, Birmingham, and asked if they had anybody there that was in film that might be interested in a topic like this. And lo and behold, there was. I met up with Brent. I'm not going to use his last name. And he and I became partners, and he was an editor. And literally on our first outing, we had fantastic luck, and It's not always fantastic luck when we go out, but I would say a good 10% of the time when we go out, or when we used to go out, we had some substantial evidence come across us.
How do you feel about that? Now, let's rewind. I don't know, we know each other, but we don't really know each other
Hmm.
very deeply. So I don't know what you know about me, and I'll skim over it really quickly. Of course, I had all the dreams and ghosts and all that, but then there came a time when I started to see things when I was awake. There was a cloaked entity that had followed me from an old house where I used to live into a new construction house. It had hit me, and I felt that in the physical. Back in the day, I was about to sign a record deal, and I had a portal door open up in my living room. The cliche deal with the devil happened in my living room. That blew my mind. And then recently, and this was a big catalyst for me, Greg, because I don't think I would have been as open to the whole Bigfoot phenomenon and Dogman and all these other cryptids unless what I'm about to tell you next happened. I'm in my bedroom. My dad passes away. I take over his estate, long story short, and I'm in my bedroom and I have a fairy encounter. I'm wide awake and I see a fairy. Have you heard that account?
I have not.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you what happened right now. So, if I wouldn't have had this fairy encounter while I'm wide awake, I think I would have been more closed minded about Sasquatch and would have thought more on the lines of, yeah, it's some kind of wood ape and, all of that. Well, anyway, so my father passes away. I go through a divorce. I'm starting over. My brother and sister are totally cool. They're like, I just take over dad's house, get a fresh start. So I'm at this old house where I am now, about 6 years ago now. And I am renovating the whole house. It was pretty dilapidated. I'm pretty much fixing everything there is to fix on there. And so by the end of one of these particular days, I'm a little bit worn out, but my mind is still going. Okay, I've got to do this. A new roof's got to be put on, gutters, all this kind of stuff. So I go down, I go to my bedroom and I lay on the bed for a second, and I'm wide awake. So this is not a case of a vision. This is not a case of a dream. My mind is buzzing. I close my eyes for not even that long, 30 seconds, maybe a couple of minutes, because my mind is thinking about the list of things I've got to do. And then all of a sudden, Greg, I hear a voice, and it's a female feminine voice. And it says, "I've heard about you." So in my mind,
Interesting.
yes, says, "I've heard about you." And in my mind, I'm like, there's a girl in my house. I'm the only, I'm only, and really my mind goes to, because I know the house sat for a couple of years and there was a couple of break-ins and we weren't sure, was it my nephew looking for a place to bring his girlfriends? I'm going back and forth trying to figure out why they were break-ins. And then so I'm like, uh-oh, somebody's in the house and it's a girl. And I open my eyes to see what I expect to be a girl in my bedroom. And now I do this with everyone I tell this story to. I open my eyes to find a fairy hovering over my face about a foot away, about the size of my hand. And it's looking at me. I always do this, Greg, but this is my fun part. It's looking at me like this.
Okay.
Yeah, what a wonderful account. So I hear a voice. I've heard about you. I open my eyes to see this grayish blue, half bug, half woman fairy hovering over me, wings going and everything. And it's looking at me so intently, it doesn't realize that I've heard its voice. I have now opened my eyes. And then out of my mouth, Greg, comes, I can see you, right? And I didn't even plan to say that. It just came out of my mouth. And so she's like this. And when I say, I can see you, right? She goes, oh, and zips across the room. Now, I call it a junction box where you plug your DVD player in, your VCR, you plug it into that, then that goes to the TV. Great. She flies across the room and pop right into that junction box, and sparks flew.
What?
And she's gone. Oh yeah, and she's gone. So I'm not dreaming. I'm not vision. I'm not a vision. I'm like, what the heck just happened?
Wow.
Clearly feminine. Clearly a female, bluish gray. Spoke. I don't know if it was telepathically or out loud, but it was. I heard English in my head. I've heard about you. I know. I can see you, right? So that happened, and I say to myself, Greg, all right. No matter what I think I know, I am now going to be totally open-minded about this whole paranormal cryptid world. Now, everybody's heard me who listens to my show. They know I'm a Christian. They know I have my Christian narrative and, how we try to connect this with the whole biblical narrative. And I get all that. But for me, since then, and now doing, we did another TV pilot show called Pizza Monster about the paranormal. I'm out there now almost on a weekly basis interviewing eyewitnesses. A week ago, I finally heard my samurai chatter. 2 weeks ago, Greg, I'm out in the woods and I finally hear the Sierra Sounds three-phrase howl as loud as a freight train. I'm in the middle of the woods. It must have been so close. It must have been because there's like my tent, the river, and then I think that's where the Sasquatch stood when it did its howl, letting everybody else know that I was there in my tent. And then I've heard them speak at that same location, which sounded very similar to Neff from Sasquatch, Ontario, the whole blah, 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 blah. And then, like I said, then last week the samurai chatter was so and then footprints. I've been very blessed with finding footprints, either with the eyewitnesses or even when I go back to a location on my own when nobody knows I'm coming. They don't know where I'm at. They don't know what time, so nobody can set it up. And so I've been very successful in that aspect. So now, with all that said, okay, you have a background of where I'm coming from. Some of the things that you have talked about on the NCI show on the Channel 12 TV network, in our team podcast show, you really have talked about the interdimensional and all those different, I guess you could say, physical capabilities of the whole cryptid world. Can you elaborate more? Now that you've got a background of me, that I'm an open book, brother. I don't care if you believe there. I always say this, I don't care if you believe Sasquatch comes from the third moon on the east side of the fifth ring of Saturn. I want to hear about it.
Yeah. Well, like I said, when I first started, we did not collaborate with anybody because I wanted my opinions to be my own and not to be influenced by someone else's opinion. Right. So when we started going out and we started seeing things that at first I kind of chalked things up to me seeing things, and they were orbs. For lack of another term, orbs. They're luminous balls of light floating through the woods, and they've been various colors. So the first ones I ever saw were red, and I attribute them to being tail lights. They were that bright. I was like, who in the heck is has a car out here in the middle of the dadgum woods, because we were deep in the woods. I mean, mid-morning. Well, I say midnight, 1-2 o'clock in the morning, the witching hour. And You know, when we went over to where those lights were, where I expected to find a road trail or something, and there was not. And that was in the making of the first film, the Legend of the Downy Booger. So while we're seeing all this, and I'm like, okay, what is this? And at first I thought it was just a one-off, and then we kept seeing them, and I kept seeing them, and I kept seeing them. And eventually these things started to react to me or to us, not just me, but to us. In other words, they would respond to stimuli. For instance, you could say, hey, can you make yourself brighter? And they would get real bright all of a sudden. Wow. And then it would seem like they would use up all their energy, and they would become dimmer than they were before, but they wouldn't go away. And eventually, it seemed like they would gather their energy and brighten back up again. And there was one particular time, a lady that was with us, she said, hey, do you know Greg? And I don't know how to explain this other than it seemed like somebody had took a really bright flashlight at night and shined it straight in your face for just a second. You know how you can almost feel your pupils dilate, sort of. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what happened to me. And I felt like, I was like, why? I don't know if you call it zapping, or I don't know what you call it. But I felt like it pointed me out, like it knew who I was, right? Mm. And some of these encounters were not fleeting. They lasted for hours. And sometimes they would last so long, I'd get tired of it. It's like, okay, dude, I'm going back to camp, right? And these things would follow you. They would follow you up to a certain point, right? So they were clearly either intelligent themselves or under intelligent control. Okay, so keep that in mind. I kept seeing all these orbs. Now, at the same time we kept seeing these orbs, we had the anecdotal Bigfoot activity, the throwing rocks and the hoops and the howls and the chatter. And, you can hear something, but you can't see it. Those sort of things. Right. And that happened very, very frequently when we saw the orbs. And during the latter part of Booger, I was growing weary because we weren't getting anything on like night vision, right? So you project an infrared light out, and we wasn't getting anything. So I said, hey, look, guys, let's rent us a real high-end camera that can virtually see in the dark, and it's passive. It's not projecting anything. And let's go film some of these orbs. So, at least we'll have something, right? So we go out, and we're right on cue. One of these orbs showed. It stays with us all night. And it was actually a very active night that night. And we kept having troubles with equipment. That seems to be a very common topic with us. Right. For once, I saw something crawling down this hill at us, and I had it on thermal, and it got up to a log, and it pushed up, and then went back down, and then it just disappeared and just vanished from thermal. I'm like, how the freak does that happen, right? And so I thought, well, I got it on recording, and it would be great footage. No, I didn't have it on recording. The thermal was corrupted during that time. Wow. So I got it when it was a little bit far away, but as it started to crawl closer, the thermals magically just started to corrupt. The files started to corrupt. And we took that camera and we started filming one of the orbs. And there was a storm coming. And I was like, hey, okay, storm's coming. Let's be safe. Let's get out of here. And we got plenty of the footage of the orb. And during post-production, what we saw was this thing crawling between us and that orb that we were filming. And there was this one particular time where Brent, hit the record button. It seemed like this thing, and this thing is crawling on all fours. When you blow it up on the big picture, you can see its arms bent like this, and the head stays in the middle, and it's like an oh crap moment. Like, oh crap, I'm on camera, and it's like trying to crawl back and forth. Right, it didn't know which way to go. And the camera is focusing in on it because there's something there, because that camera is trying to focus on it. And then all of a sudden the orb behind it starts to go nuts, just gets real bright and just goes nuts. And the camera gives up focus on the crawler and focuses in on the orb. And then the crawler just vanishes, crawls off screen and vanishes. So we didn't see that with our eyes while we were there, but the camera sure saw it. Okay, now keep that in mind. Got this orb and this panicked. It was a Bigfoot. There was a young Bigfoot there that he's been caught several times crawling up. Okay. And so several people have seen him. So that's how I know it was a Bigfoot. He got caught. He's probably not the smartest one.
That's awesome. That's great. We need the dumb ones. We
do. We need the dumb ones. We need the dumb ones. But I think that's what that's what it was. Because I'm not the only one that's happened to. Others have actually seen it. So anyway, let's fast forward a little bit to the making of The Land Between the Lakes. Now, during the making of Booger, I saw all kinds of strange, weird things. Like, I did not believe in ghosts at all until I saw one. Wow. We were out orb watching, and this Indian on a horse materializes in front of us. Just whoosh, there it is, and it rides across the field, gets to the tree line, and disappears. He totally ignores us. I'm gonna look over at Janice. She's a lady that's in our group. Looked over and said, "Janice, did you see?" And she looked back and says, "An Indian on a horse? Yeah."
Oh man!
So Brent at the time, he didn't see it, so we used him as a guinea pig. He said, "Hey Brent, go over there and in the field and just stand there for a minute." So we was going to try to test the translucency of it, right? To see how solid it was. And when Brent got over there to right where it was, they looked identical as far as the translucency. Wow. So it was completely solid. We didn't tell him that until after he got, "Why don't you want me to go over there?" I'm like, "We saw a ghost."
Yeah, I'm not going over there.
We saw a ghost. He was like, "What?" So, he was a little upset with us, but oh well. What he didn't know at the time didn't hurt him. But so we saw bunches and bunches of things that we did not put in the film because, quite frankly, we were like, no one's going to believe this because it's so outlandish, right? There was disembodied voices, particularly my voice. On one of these outings, I was at the bathhouse taking a shower, getting ready to go to bed for the evening. And Janice had just gotten there and she was getting things out of her truck and she heard, "Hey, Janice," in my voice. And she said it sounded like it came from up under her truck. And, she thought I was playing. I'm a little bit of a trickster and, I'm kind of silly sometimes. It's an understatement. But, I was not anywhere near at the time. And she was starting to get a little bit angry because she thought I was playing these weird tricks on her because that would have been weird, right? And then she thought that something grabbed her ankle while she was at the truck. So, and then when when I finally got back into camp, she was like, "Why are you doing all this? Blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "Well, I don't know what you're talking about, Janice. I was over at the bathhouse." Right. And I kind of dismissed it. I dismissed her at the time. I did because, monkey don't see it, monkey don't believe it, right? until later on that night. I was in camp. I was like, okay, I'm going to get up and go use the bathroom. So I got up and I unzipped the tent. And as soon as I unzipped it, I heard, "Hey, Janice," in my voice. And I was like, nope. And I zipped it back up. And of course, I said nope out loud, right? And Brent just happened to be up. And he's like, "I heard that." So he and I both heard it. So that happened. And, you know, it later happened again to Paul Halsey, who was my mentor in North Georgia. He heard, "Hey, Paul," in my voice.
Oh my goodness.
And he said it was coming from behind an outhouse, you know, kind of like, you know, inviting him to come behind the outhouse.
Wow.
Yeah. So, you know, we're like, nobody's going to believe that. That's going to be the wildest story ever. Right. But, you know, later on, I had regrets about, you know, leaving out some of those stories and leaving out some of the evidence that we had actually gotten, because I did get some of the disembodied voices on camera and I've left it out. However,
were you concerned what people would think?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I was concerned that it would be, people would say like, okay, he's either faking it or he's crazy, either one of the two.
Yeah, the whole validity of it all. Yeah, we're in a world where now the veil's coming down a lot, but it's tough because you want to present everything you acquire, all the evidence, but yet the world or the general public is still pretty vicious out there with their attacks on, you know, Bigfoot eyewitnesses and et cetera.
Yeah. You know, and when I first started this, the only thing that I really had was my integrity, right? I absolutely, positively refuse to fake anything. I won't do it. And I think that's one of the reasons why it takes me so long to do a film, is because not every time when you go out do you get action. You know, like I said, it's about 10%.
Oh, right.
But I mean, that still gnawed at me, right? And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go ask all these other people that's out here, are they experiencing some of the same things that I've experienced? And lo and behold, I found out that, you know, how common it actually was. It's actually very common to experience the orbs and the disembodied voices and you know, all the other things that we were experiencing. I hooked up with Trey Hudson, who is the director of the Metal Project, and they were experiencing a lot of the same things. And you know, like I said, that, you know, this high strangeness is what inspired the making of The Land Between the Lakes, because I wanted to explore everything. And sure enough, you know, when we got to the Land Between the Lakes, we got into the meadow, I'm doing this Estes method. And for those who are not familiar with it, you got this ghost box and you put the earbuds in your ears and it's attached to the ghost box. Then you put noise canceling earmuffs over that, and then they blindfold you so you don't have any auditory or visual stimuli. And we're doing this session, and true to form, we have a 2-camera setup that's filming this, and both cameras at the same time decided they just wanted to quit, you know, just wasn't paying enough, I guess. So Brent is going over and restarting the cameras, and right as one of the cameras fail, it actually catches the shadow person that's right behind me. And as Brent's getting the cameras ready again, he sees the shadow person trying to enter me several times. Freaks him out so bad, to this day, he will not go back to the meadow. Absolutely will not go back. Of course, Monkey see, monkey don't do, monkey don't believe. I didn't believe it, but it's actually on film. You can see it in The Land Between the Lakes. It's right about where I say stop, just stop. It's right around there. Okay. If you look right over my right shoulder, there's a shadow. And when we all sit and confer, everybody was accounted for and no one else was moving. That was the shadow person. And that's when Brent said he saw it. And he said it just kind of, it was humanoidish, humanoidish. But, later on, a few months down the road, I actually saw a shadow person at the meadow. And I was like, I'll be damned, Brent was right. And there's one right there. It was,
now, when you say, I hate to interject, but I'm Michigan based, and so my audience. So, give us a little bit of history on the Land Between the Lake, where it's at, what's the history of it, what's the meadow? Break that down.
Okay, the meadow. I can't describe. I can't give out its location, but it's got a history of having some bizarre high strangeness. And when Trey Hudson went there, he lo and behold, there's a lot of stuff here. Anything from Bigfoot to orbs to UFOs. The whole gambit of weirdness happens there. And I have to say, they're right. Weird things happen there. The Land Between the Lakes, if you're looking at a map, it is bisected by Tennessee and Kentucky on the western part of both states. If you're looking at a map, Tennessee's top border and Kentucky's southern border is almost like a straight line, except it's got a little bloop right there on the western side. That little bloop is the Land Between the Lakes. Okay. And it used to be called the Land Between the Rivers. And that land actually goes back all the way back to the Revolutionary War, where many of the soldiers in the Revolutionary War was awarded much of that property as payment for their services in the Revolutionary War. So it had stayed in their families' names generations until the government, in the name of progress, wanted to dam up the rivers and make lakes for power generation, right? So a lot of the people, and in the whole area of the Land Between the Lakes, they just kicked out all of the residents, just took their land by eminent domain. There was many of the residents, when they wouldn't leave, they unfortunately lost their lives.
Oh my.
Yeah. Their houses were demolished in front of them. Their whole life was auctioned off, with the things in front of them, to help pay for the dozers to come in and destroy their homes. So you can see that there's a lot of bad blood there.
The Cherokee Indian me wants to say, man, that brings on curses and stuff, possibly. The old. And so when you diss people like that, my goodness.
Yeah. So that was a very dark time. When they decided to create the Land Between the Lakes in the name of progress, right? So anyway, that area has a long history of just weirdness.
Mm-hmm.
And I was approached by some people, friends of Martin Groves. If you don't know Martin Groves, he's a fascinating fella. He's he's a retired police officer who had a dogman encounter at the Land Between the Lakes. And he actually fired rounds at the dogman, and it had no effect, essentially. And he almost went to jail himself over reporting that, because he was an officer at the time, and anytime you discharge a weapon, you have to make a report about it. Well, he made a report about it and almost went to jail over it because they claimed he was bear hunting or something like that. But anyway.
My goodness.
Yeah. There's these legends of massacres that's happened at the Land Between the Lakes, and allegedly by Dogman. So I was approached by some people who knew Martin Groves, and I spoke with him for a while, and he started to inform me of the big history there, and that there's lots of things there. It's not just Dogman or Bigfoot. There's lots of things there, and I was like intrigued, and it's like, okay, I'm going to change focus from the Meta Project over to the Land Between the Lakes. And it was that weekend, from the day we got there to the day we left, there was some sort of activity of some kind. But the first day that I got there, all right, the first day, well, let me back up before I get to that. Let me back up one more time. Speaking of the Metal Project, I interviewed a gentleman there, and they got footage of this gentleman and somebody else walking into what they described as a portal. It's a FLIR footage of it. When they walked into the portal, they disappeared from FLIR. And Bob said that when they had walked in, everything went black. You couldn't see anything. And so they was a little bit, they didn't want to stay in there. So they turned around and went back out the same way they come in. And sure enough, they appear back on FLIR again. But unfortunately, both of those gentlemen that walked into that portal, they both developed an aggressive form of cancer, and they both have passed away now.
Oh no.
Yeah. It's sad. We lost a legend when we lost Bob. Bob Wilson. He went by Grumpy, but that was an oxymoron. He was probably one of the nicest guys you've ever met in your life. So this is another piece of a puzzle. The orb in front or behind the Bigfoot, the crawler, was one piece of the puzzle for me, right? This other, these humans walking out of the portal, then contracting cancer, this is another piece of a puzzle for me. Okay, now let's go to the Land Between the Lakes. Our first night there, we go out to this cemetery, and there's a lot of cemeteries up there. I don't remember the one that we were at. We see these orbs. We were there with some ghost hunters, and I start seeing these orbs, and I was like, wow, this is incredible. And then I see a light, a color of light that I hadn't seen before. And I was like, that's interesting. So I couldn't see the source at first, so I kind of maneuvered around, started looking between the trees, and sure enough, I finally found the source, and it's a portal. It is a rectangular portal. It has 90-degree angles on it, and I can see in it. It's very two-dimensional. When you look at it from the side, you can't see it. As you move around, you can actually see it.
Oh my!
You can see. I was looking, and I don't know if it was on the other side of the earth. I don't know where that portal went to. Right? Could have been anywhere, but it was daylight where it was. That was the light that I was seeing. It was daylight, and it was lush green, kind of like looking into a jungle, sort of, with kudzu and stuff. I mean, it wasn't kudzu, but it was kudzu-esque, So that's what it was like looking into, and I'm stunned. I am absolutely stunned. And then somebody shines a flashlight down that way by accident. They didn't know what I was looking at. And it shuts off just whoop, as soon as the light hits it, whoop, it's gone, right? I'm like, wow, that was incredible. But I would say 3 or 4 minutes later, an orb traverses up right from where that portal was. I mean, we saw it came up exactly right where that portal was. That's another piece of a puzzle to me. So that evening, or not that evening, that trip, we went out to film, like where Martin says that there was some Bigfoots, and sure enough, we wasn't there 5 minutes, and we're getting stuff out of the back of the truck. It takes you as a filmmaker, that you don't just get out and just start filming, right? There's things you have to set up, and wireless mics, and you have to
hurry up and wait. Hurry up and wait.
Right. It's exactly what it is. Sort of like being in the military. Hurry up and wait. So I'm sitting here getting all of the gear ready, and I hear this grunt, sort of like, ugh. Now, I can't imitate it exactly, but that's close. First, I just ignored it because I'd heard it before, and I thought could have been a bear, right? But there's no bear at the Land Between the Legs. Keep that in mind. But I didn't know that at the time. So I'm continuing on. I'm like getting stuff ready, and then it does it again. I'm like, hey, did you guys hear that? And about the time I'm saying that, it does it again. And my camera guy goes berserk. He's like, oh my God, we got to leave. We got to get out of here. They're here. They're here. It zaps him, but in his defense now, you could feel it when it growled that third time, your whole body just vibrates, and it triggers that fight or flight emotion or whatever. And he was ready to run, and I grabbed him by the back of the coat and I was like, hold on, buddy, calm down. This is why we're here. You're okay. Yep. And he's like, no, I'm not okay. I'm not okay. I'm like, calm down. And then as I'm thinking, this needs to be documented, right? So I'm grabbing just the first camera that I can find. And I grab a short range night vision camera, and I hear it, when I finally hit the on button, and it makes a little sort of sound, when it winds up. I'm like, yeah. And I open up the display flap, and I look up, and I see what's making these growls. It's a Bigfoot. It's standing right in front of my truck. I'm at the back of it. It's at the front of it. And it's just standing there. And I can see, from here up. And it's just standing there looking at us. And I freeze. I'm like, oh, wow. And, it seemed like an eternity, but it was probably, 1 or 2 seconds, And I got to get this on camera, right? And so when I look down, I'll look into the display screen. That's a rookie error. Because it's dark out. There's no lights, right? None. And I look down into the display screen. Well, my night vision now is gone.
Yes.
Like, crap. So I turn it over onto night vision and kick on the IR light, and I start shining it up. I'm trying to get this Bigfoot, and I thought I missed it, but I actually do catch its eyes. If you go and look, you can actually see its eyes, and I'm like, yeah. But I thought I missed it. Right. Got it. So Adam Davis was with us. Adam Davis is a world traveler. He's been all over. He's been on Expedition Unknown with Josh Gates, and he's been on Monster Quest. And I essentially grew up watching Adam Davis. They're like, wow, I want to be like Adam Davis, right? He's on these adventures. Well, he's in my film. He's in my film with. But what a lot of people don't know about Adam was he was in the British military. Now, his job when he was in the British military was to hunt warlords and war criminals. So he's been in firefights and in dangerous situations in the Congo and the jungles. He's been in every kind of dangerous situation that you can think about. And his military training kicked in. He's like, okay, we got to group together and we got to push this thing back, right? Because, we had 4 grown men right with us, and it was not intimidated at all. None.
Wow.
So we form a little group, and we start, every time we take a step forward, this thing starts growling. Just brr. Every time we take a step forward, it growls, and it's like a tug of war. And this encounter goes on for like 20, 25 minutes. It's just incredible, and we're sitting there yelling at this other group who, unbeknownst to us, is having their own encounter, but we didn't know that. And we're like, hey, we got it down here. Come down here. And they're having their own encounter up there. And, we're slowly winning the tug of war, right? And it's kind of going back into the woods. And when it gets back deeper, a little deeper into the woods, another one starts throwing rocks from our left, and it kind of lands at my feet. And I said, Adam, there's another one throwing rocks to our left. And then all of a sudden his eyes gets real big. He says, what the woof? Beep. He says, they're flanking us. He recognized that as a military tactic. They were flanking us. The one that was in front of us was a decoy, essentially.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. That's what was going on. He said he had never, in all of his firefights and everything, out of all of them, he had never been so scared as he was when he realized that they were flanking us. He knew he had underestimated their intelligence.
Wow.
He had underestimated it. And like I said, that encounter lasted, I'd say 25 minutes, right? And when we got all of our little interviews and stuff done right afterwards, when things sort of calmed down a little bit, both cameras died. Brent actually did overcome his fear, and he started to film. And that's a huge credit to him, right? But anyway, both cameras just died at the same time. And they should have lasted all night.
Wow.
Okay, so Martin Groves was feeling a little bit ill, and he was kind of back at the back. And I was like, I wonder if I can find some footprints right in front of the truck. So I go and look in the front of the truck, and it's kind of real gravelly, and there wasn't any footprints. So I said, I wonder if he's still around. So I do one of my silly experiments. I growl really loud, just it's real loud, right? And then all of a sudden I heard boom, boom, boom. It responded. It stomped 3 times. And as it stomped, Brent was coming up, and he says, hey, did you hear that? It responded to you. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do it again. So I growled again, real loud. And guess what? It stomped again. Boom, boom, boom. But this time, it was right at the edge of the road.
My.
We're thinking you should be able to see it. But, it was pitch black out. Pitch black. And then Brent looks over at me. He's like, stop doing that shit. I was like, I don't know what I'm saying to it, but I agree with you, Brent. Who knows what I'm saying to it. So we think that this encounter has died off. But no, he's still standing there. So I act like I'm not even seeing him or whatever, and we go back to the back of the truck. And I tell everybody, he's still here, but we don't have anything to record with anymore. There's no film-wise, there's nothing that we can literally do other than just have a story. So we do eventually leave, and later on, we sit and talk about what happened, and we actually go ghost hunting one night. Sure enough, we get EVPs, see all these orbs. There's orbs everywhere. Long-lasting orbs, not just a whoop. Sometimes they do that, but these orbs just kind of stayed around. And Adam Davies had never seen an orb before. He's like looking at these orbs like, oh my God, it's incredible, in his British accent, Then all of a sudden he says one time, oh my God, they're dancing. Because it was like 3 of them. And then the 3 would turn into 1. And, it was just an incredible encounter. But we were so cold, we had to leave. We left them, and they were still there. We left them. But we have all that documented, though. That is a long documentation of those orbs.
Where can we get that film, Land Between the Lakes?
Well, I am in the right now. You can actually get it on my Patreon page, relicfilmsmedia.com. They can purchase a streaming version of it there. They can contact me for a DVD copy. And right now I'm in the process of transferring it over to Amazon and Tubi and all the other platforms, like my first
Very
film.
cool.
So
Very cool.
it won't be long before you'll be able to see it on all of the popular streaming platforms.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm excited. We're not done yet. We'll talk about a couple more things. So I like it because you're open to the interdimensional side of things. I didn't believe in the mind speak until it happened to me. Kind of like
Mhm.
Scott Carpenter had said before, they might come to your house. Well, they've come to my house a couple of times.
Yeah.
Had the mind speak, that blew my mind. Um, what are your thoughts on all of this? What do you think these? I mean, we don't know what they are. Our knowledge is expanding. We're playing catch up to these
Mhm.
things that have the
Right.
ability to move in and out of dimensions or whatever you want to call it. What are
Mhm.
your thoughts?
Okay. Well, you recall me earlier mentioning pieces of a puzzle. The first piece was seeing the orb behind the Bigfoot, and it goes crazy. The second one was people going into a portal, coming out, and developing cancer. The third one is the portal that I saw, and then an orb coming out from it. Right.
Mm.
Other pieces of the puzzle is like trackways that stop in the middle of the field and just abruptly stop. So that's happened several times with us, right? So they have to ask the question, well, where did it go? So when I start putting all these pieces of puzzle together, what I am thinking is that portals are dangerous for organic material. Okay, hence getting cancer. I think that Bigfoots have, and other maybe other entities too, have the ability to transform into an energy form, and I think that's the only safe way that you can really traverse these portals. And I'm not the only one who has seen a portal. Adam Davis has also seen a portal, but when I saw the orb come out from where that portal was, now I didn't see it come out of the portal. However, I can put two and two together, and I can assume that it came out of that portal, right? So after all of my films and all of my years out in the field, I've moved from the thinking that this is just some wood ape over to that this is some sort of interdimensional being, that they can traverse different realities. I don't know if they're from another planet, another dimension. I don't know what's on the other side of that portal. But I don't think that they're from here. I think they have the ability to transform themselves into energy. Now, I don't think that they're the only ones limited to that. I mean, it's very possible that when we humans die, we transform into energy, right? Our consciousness transforms into energy. So it may very well be that some of the orbs that we see are ghosts, essentially. So that could be a possibility as well. So all I'm saying is I think that there's a high likelihood that Bigfoots have that ability. And what solidified my belief in that is not long ago, Representative Luna from Florida, she was in a podcast and she was asked, does she know of extraterrestrial life? And she gives a little bit of an explanation about some things, but she says that she would not describe them as extraterrestrial, as from another planet, but she knew for a fact that they were extra dimensional beings.
Hmm.
So
That
that
makes
is
sense.
that is de facto disclosure that extra dimensional beings exist, and I think Bigfoot could be one of these.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. We're really in an ant farm, with our biological bodies and our physical surroundings. I think we're hemmed in for whatever reason it may be.
Hmm.
That fairy I saw, it seemed shocked that I could see it and could hear it. Why at that moment could I see and hear it? Because it responded like, "Oh my gosh, you can see and hear me." So rather than like just disappearing, it was looking for an exit.
Right.
And that was its exit. Whatever electrical waves, radio waves. I mean, I'm no scientist, and so it just wanted to get out of there once it realized I was hearing it and seeing it.
Hmm.
So,
Now that happened to Brent as well. I
okay.
was able to see. Yeah, I was able to see the orbs, and I was like, "Hey, Brent, you see that orb over there?" And he was like, "Where? What?" I said, "The big ball of light right over there."
Right.
Yeah, where? I don't see it. So he was not able to see them when I was. It took him like a
Okay.
year to be able to see them. So that so whatever happens to them, I don't think that you're the only one that it happens to. I think that that's happened to a lot of people because I know it happened to Brent. So.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, my mind
Mhm.
speak, just to fill you in on that, I had walked out of the back of my house, have to take the garbage to behind the garage, so it's a little hike, and it's basically into darkness. Once I got out of the light of the porch light on the rear of the house, that's when I heard three things. And it's funny because you hear it, but yet you get a full download of the full meaning of what they're saying. So what they said, and
Mhm.
it was almost like an old Indian saying it or broken English. It was thanks for friendship, scout, and force people. Those three things were said. Thanks for friendship, scout, and force people. I knew they were saying, "Hey, thanks for gifting us when you were out at our location. You asked me what my name was. My name is Scout. At least that's what it is for you. And then we'd rather be referred to as forest people than Bigfoot." That
Mhm.
is what happened. And I had the garbage over my shoulder and I swung around and I looked to see where it was coming from. So whether they were just outside the darkness in my backyard. I live in a town that is surrounded by country and farmland and forest. It's a town in the middle. It's like the Shire. It's like nobody comes here to Sandusky, Michigan because it's out of the way. It's in the thumb. Everybody wants to go up north, so no one comes over to this little area. And now I found I
Mhm.
live in what I call the Bigfoot triangle of the thumb of Michigan. And I've had so many encounters, so many eyewitnesses, all different colors of Bigfoot. It's been quite an amazing journey for me. So it's nice to talk to a guy like you. Let's talk about that portal for a second before we wrap it up. Was it
Yeah.
the portal you saw? You said two-dimensional. Was it like a TV screen, like say a flat screen and just kind of floating in the air type of deal?
Yeah, that's exactly the way it was. It'd be like a flat screen on its side, right? The it was longer than in height than it was in width, right?
Okay.
So yeah, but yeah, essentially, yeah. If you took a TV screen, just put it out there in space, whoop, there it is. And it
Wow.
wasn't huge. It was maybe uh, I would say maybe 4 foot tall and 2.5, 3 foot wide. So yeah, that's and like I say, it was like looking into a window, looking out a
And
window, exactly like looking out a window.
And then that attributes to, I've got some of David Pilati's books, The Missing 411. Is that how people sometimes have gone missing? That whole narrative. I mean, there's so
Hmm.
much information out there. I'm happy we are scratching the surface. We're never going to learn about all of this stuff. But if we can pool the data, if we can, like, I love people. So I love
Mhm.
getting to know people. I love getting to know you and learning what you've learned and then getting it out there to the general public. I always tell my boys, hey, look, my oldest son, he laughs at me. He's like, yeah, Dad, you're just getting older. You need something to do as you're about to retire, And my youngest one, he's like, all right, no, Dad, I've trusted you my whole life. Why would you lie to me? And I just tell them, look, you don't have to believe in it, but you need to have it in the back of your mind because I don't
Mhm.
want my boys walking out into the woods or driving down the road and having a Bigfoot step out in front of them or a UFO come down and then their whole paradigm is screwed. They are, their whole life has lost its stability. No, I want you
Mhm.
guys to be aware of it. You don't have to believe in it, but if it were to ever happen, you're going to be like, Dad told us about that. All right, I got to go to work now, because you've got to live a productive life. After all of these
Right.
encounters,
You do.
guys like you, guys like me, all the eyewitnesses I'm meeting, we have to continue on with life, take care of our family and friends, live productive lives. Oh, hey, I had Natalie Smearman on, or maybe she said it on the NCI show, but we heard you got scratched or something at one of your last outings.
Oh, yeah. You know, there's lots of things that I just kind of falls out of my mind. Yeah, we were in Richmond, Missouri at Ray County Museum. And I was in the museum, was doing the ghost hunt thing. And I was just kind of sitting upstairs and just enjoying the darkness. And there was this creepy baby doll in a creepy little cradle, iron cradle, little pushy cradle thing I was sitting next to, and it was freaking moving every once in a while, and I kind of look over at it, and sure enough, I get scratched on the back, and
Oh,
and it happened when I had gotten up and said, okay, it's a little creepy for me, so I started walking down this hallway, and dang it, the hallway had these mannequins and they're freaky. You're walking down, and these freaky mannequins are up in that hallway. Anyway, so I was in that hallway, and I felt something that scratched me on the back. Um, and it was a pretty good scratch too. It brought blood. So,
wow.
yeah. However, over the years, I've sort of developed this feeling where I don't impose like human intentions on everything else. So I don't
Yes.
necessarily deem that as an attack. It may have just been trying to say, hey, don't go anywhere, you know?
Right. An acknowledgement, so to speak.
Yeah, so, and just like when we was out with the Bigfoots, and it was growling and huffing, and what we thought was growling and huffing and was an intense encounter. Also, at the same time, maybe it was just playing,
Good
because,
stuff.
from what I saw, we didn't have enough firepower to put it down. I'm just
Wow.
telling you right now, we did not. I mean, our security had a 45 with him, and yeah, he had drawn his weapon. He had it drawn that whole time. Um, and lucky for us, he's a trained law enforcement officer, so he didn't just go shooting at random,
Hmm.
Um, but even if he would have saw it, shot it. He wouldn't have put it down. No, not
Right.
a
And
45.
but yet it didn't attack you. It could have.
That's right. That's
All
what
of
we're
them.
saying. It
All
didn't
of them.
attack
Yeah.
us. It didn't
Yeah.
attack us. Neither did the one that threw a rock from the side. Maybe it was just saying, "Hey, we could have got you if we wanted to." Maybe that's what they were saying. You know. Um,
Yeah. Good stuff.
and plus, they were dealing with another one at the other group. You know. So, and later when we came back, we went out and filmed at the exact same place again a couple of days later. We thought nothing happened, but yet I was using my full spectrum camera, and you could see their eyes glow out in the woods. and there were 4 or 5 of them just standing there watching us. They didn't try to approach us. They just stood there watching us. And if you watch the film, you'll understand the reasoning behind that.
Fantastic. Well, listen, Greg. Listen, we're going to wrap it up. Man, we hit every bullet point. We talked about UFOs. We talked about Bigfoot. We talked about orbs. We talked about entities, encounters, ghosts. I couldn't have asked for a better episode. So thank you so much. Once again, can you tell everybody listening how to get a hold of you, how to watch your films and all of that? Go ahead.
You can find me on Facebook, just Greg Ogles, and you can get our films. You can find The Legend of the Downy Booger on Tubi TV and Roku and all the other popular streaming platforms. And you can find the Land Between the Lakes at relicfilmsmedia.com, and soon to be streaming on all the other platforms as well.
Fantastic. All right, Greg, I'm going to put you backstage. I'll be there in a moment, so hang on back there. Thanks again, Greg. Talk to you in a second.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, everybody. What more can we say? How could we ask for a better episode? Greg Ogles, track him down on Facebook, find his movies, Land Between the Lakes. Yeah, what a great guy. Very knowledgeable gentleman. I'm so thrilled to have had him on. And to everybody at home, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Bigfoots of America podcast show, and we'll see you next time.